Convenient betrayal. In Mark chapter 14 verse 10 to 11 we read of Judas Iscariot. And this is interesting because the name Judas is the Greek iteration of the Hebrew word Judah. And the Hebrew word Judah means praised. And it tells us something about Judas. And what we understand about Judas, so the word Judas is not a bad word, it's a good word with a deep, a real, and a virtuous meaning. However, the character that Judas had formed in his life showed that instead of nurturing virtues, he nurtured the vice of selfishness and of selfish gain. So instead of praise, he had the opposite. He had the opposite of selfishness and envy resting in his soul, presiding within his bosom, presiding and governing his mind. So when people call a betrayer a Judas, it's actually an oxymoron because the word Judah means praise. And that person is conflicted and they have issues in their soul that they have not dealt with. And because they have not dealt with these issues, they betray, because they betray based on Mark chapter 14 verse 10 to 11 for one particular reason. And it says, and Judas Iscariot, one of the 12, went unto the chief priests to betray him unto them. And when they heard it, they were glad and promised to give him money. And guess what? And he saw how he might conveniently betray him. So Judas, who was nurturing the vice of selfishness and not the virtue of praise, sought to betray Christ not out of desperation, not out of necessity, but out of convenience. He did not have to do it. So it means that his heart was inwardly corrupt. It was not circumstances that brought him to the decision that he must betray Christ for gain. It was simply envy, jealousy, and selfishness that caused him to betray Christ out of convenience to himself. It was a completely self-serving act. He had no desire, he had no real necessity rather to do this. This was the direct inspiration of Satan that caused Judas to betray Christ. And so there are people in your lives who will betray you out of convenience. And as we have dealt with in presentations preceding this, when it comes to the final test of Earth's history, people will betray you out of necessity, out of desperation, and along with these things, they will also betray you out of convenience, because it just simply works in their favor. And they are only concerned with things that benefit them. They do not regard you. And so, beloved, this is a terrible thing to go through, but not even that. How many times do we ourselves betray Christ out of convenience because we do not want to disturb our own selfish pleasures? We put Christ aside and we betray him in our lives out of convenience. We know what his word says, we know what we should do, but we just can't be bothered at that given time to live according to God's law, and we betray Christ out of convenience. When we do this, what is it saying is actually going on in our hearts, and what is it doing to our minds? It says that we are submitting our souls to the spirit of selfishness. And the spirit of selfishness is the spirit of Lucifer. Beloved, this is enchanted ground. Convenient betrayal is enchanted ground. And we're going to spend some time looking at people in different situations who sought to betray the truth or betray God for convenience sake. Beloved, let us examine our souls so that we would know where we stand with God that we can take heed lest we fall. This is the Word of Life with Andre Knight.